What up, what up, what up? It's your boy OQ, Mr. Real Deal Fantasy HQ. You see the face, you know the case. Week 13, start 'em, sit 'em defenses. I'm here to get you guys right for the week. Week 13, I can't believe we are flying by this fast, but you got 6 teams on bye. So I'm going to give you 3 starts and 1 fade, give you some defenses that you could pivot to because you got teams like the Ravens, the Vikings, etc., etc. Defenses that are notable that you've had in your starting lineups. I'm here to give you some teams that are highly available to you that you could just plug and play into starting lineups for week 13. So guess who's back into starting lineups? The Atlanta Falcons, man. I said they were a great play last week. This has just been a team all season long. I've been bouncing on and off my roster. They've been living and breathing on the waiver wire for a couple of weeks, for the last couple of weeks, which is crazy to me. This is a team that I think you need to start holding on to. I think this is a team that's going to have a really good playoff matchup, and a lot of teams are getting snatched up to be teams out there holding on to 2 defenses at this point of the season. So I think the Falcons are a good play this week and possibly beyond this week. So this will be a team that you need to probably hold on to. If you haven't checked out, you can check out the playoff matchups, the advice I'm giving, the start and sit-ems for the 16 weeks 15, 16, and 17 as well. I think these teams are going to be good defensive teams to have on your rosters. But on to the Jets, man. The Jets are obviously struggling on offense. I really don't need to go into vivid detail why the Jets are bad. Their quarterback situation is terrible. So you're going up against a team right now like the Falcons who aren't allowed a bunch of big plays downfield. They're actually tied 11th in the NFL right now among defenses of completions of 20 plus. So this is a defense last week that's shown they can make the big plays, interception, Jesse Bates taking one back to the house. There's always opportunity here for this Falcons defense to show up and show out. And with a clear, obvious matchup against the Jets, I don't need to go on too further. Start the Falcons this week. Next up, we got the Titans versus the Colts. But for the second time in this entire series that I've been doing starting sentence, I'm telling you, both defenses are a valuable option. Titans defense versus the Colts, Colts versus Titans. I like this matchup between the two. It's going to be a very heavy defensive battle, I believe, where there's points on the board for both teams. Now, with the Titans, this is a team that could probably contain some points. They have 9 games this season where they have allowed less than 25 points. So this is basically a team that can hold people out of the red zone. They can hold teams to a certain amount of points. So this is a good team that is like a safe play this week where you don't have to really pivot to other defenses and try to get Q. We're going to give up a ton of points. Now, the Titans, they don't have many takeaways. They don't have many sacks, but they're a top 5 red zone defense. So that's there in stone. So I like the Titans as a play going against the Colts because you got to understand the Colts, they're an offense that's hot or cold. They're an offense that's not going out there lighting the scoreboards up, putting 30 plus points out there. And especially going against the Titans defense, who've been pretty tough for most matchups this season, I like this matchup as well. Now, on the flip side with the Colts, they have been able to get after the quarterback like crazy as of recent. 10 sacks in the last 3 games, by the way. They're also tied 6th in the NFL when it comes to sacks as well. So we know what's on the table when it comes to the Colts. They're going up against Will Levis. He has 6 touchdowns in the last 5 games. Before those touchdowns, they came in the first game that he started in week 8. So I'm not really worried about Will Levis going out there, lighting it up, or D-Hop getting hot. I'm not worried about none of this going against this Colts defense, who just been playing elite football in the last couple of weeks. So the Colts defense, also a nice play. The Titans, they're a safe play if you want to keep it contained to where I'm looking at the Titans here in the range of between 7 to 10 points. You know what I mean? That's all I'm really looking for here when it comes to defenses in my starting lineups. Now, let's get into my gamble play for week 13. I'd like to put a defense in there that's not quite the defense that's probably traditional that you would put in your starting lineups, but I like to roll the dice now and then when it comes to defenses, and it's the Packers going against the Chiefs. Now, the Packers, they have turned things around since week 5. I know I said this in previous videos, but man, the Packers defense, they've been lighting it up as of late. I mean, they've been a top 5 defense when it comes to points per game allowed, which are allowing less than 20 points per game since week 5. So that's one of the categories that matter to me when it comes to putting these defenses in starting lineups, especially like the Packers, man, when they're bringing heavy pressure. They're a top 5 defense when it comes to QB pressures as well. And we're going up against Mahomes and the Chiefs. And I look at this game as you will be fearful of Mahomes if he had Tyreek Hill and et cetera, et cetera. He's having a mid-season so far where he's having career lows in some major categories. Passing yards per game, QB pressures, yards per attempt, et cetera, et cetera. He's still trying to figure things out with these wide receivers. And I think this would be a good game where the Packers can contain the points with some upside of getting after Mahomes and creating some pressures. Because, pressures create turnovers and turnovers create points when it comes to these defenses and starting lineups. So I like the Packers this week, man. I know a lot of people are going to be on the fence about it, like, I don't know, it's still Mahomes. But this is why this will be my gamble play this week. I really understand some of these people can't make too many gamble plays this late in the season, but these are for the people who can have fun, who still look at their roster as a contending roster, and they just have the Ravens on bye week. Why not just slide the Packers in there, man? The Packers could come away with decent amount of points of containing them. So I like the high pressure that they bring against quarterbacks, and Mahomes is not having the best seasons he's having so far in his career. So why not? Let's roll the dice on the Packers this week. Now to get into a defense that I think you should be fading for week 13. Now, I have my questions about this defense. They've been a pretty good defense all season long where you can plug and play them, but this is the matchup where I think the Saints need to be a fade going against the Lions this week. And I understand that people are thinking like, man, Jared Goff has had bad games back to back, fumbles, interceptions, et cetera, et cetera. But hey, you got to understand the only way to knock Jared Goff off his game, to make him get turnovers, is to create pressure and get the sacks. And this is a Lions offensive line that's been pretty solid all season long, but the Saints are 30th in the NFL when it comes to sacks. There's not that many QB pressures that they've been able to get to the quarterback to create some of these turnovers. The turnovers they had, they are a top 5 team when it comes to takeaways, but they face some bottom of the table, QBs. I mean, we're looking at the Ryan Tannehills of the world. Outside of Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud, they got takeaways from Bryce Young, Mac Jones, Jordan Love, Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ritter. These sound like underdeveloped quarterbacks or just some bad quarterbacks where they've been able to take advantage and get the takeaways. That's why they appeared in some of my recent videos that have them in starting lineups, because they're going against quarterbacks like this. Now, Jared Goff, he's definitely a step up in my eyes from these guys because this Lions offense has been able to average more than 28 points per game. They've been able to get in the end zone more often than not. This is an offense that's very electric and can make the plays with the playmakers they have in Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta, etc. They have playmakers on this offense that can cut loose and put some points on the board. So the Saints defense wouldn't be a week that I would have in my starting lineup. I made plenty of other, observations and advice of other pivoted options and defense here in this video before you got to this point. There's also other defenses out there that you could probably pick up as well if they're available to you with low rostership. But I'm telling you now, the Saints this week, I don't like them in my starting lineup. I wouldn't tell you to do something that I wouldn't do. They're on my bench this week in the leagues that I do have them. I would pivot to other options in week 13. So this wraps up another great episode of RotoBaller Fantasy Sports YouTube channel. Please make sure you guys like and subscribe, and please leave a comment below on your start and sit questions, and I'll try to answer them all the way up until game time. So you guys can follow me at Real Deal Fantasy on all social media platforms. Until next time.